Hello. The last passage we read was didn't mention Melchizedek, but it was on the one video before that. And I just want to reiterate that Melchizedek is, even though briefly mentioned, is extremely important because he is priest of God Most High from Salem, which is, I think some people think it's half of Jerusalem, Jerusalem. So Jeru and Salem. Yeah, anyway, we'll continue now with the passage that we're at. God said to Abraham, "For your part, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation by generation. This is how you shall keep my covenant between myself and your descendants after you. Circumcise yourselves, every male among you." What a shock. That is obviously something that suddenly involving faith and sex and your feelings towards sex is something bizarre to someone who has been brought up with just having faith as a spiritual thing in trusting. Just means is another word for trusting people. Then it becomes a very sort of emotional, panic-driven thing when you just relate it straight away to your sex and maybe marriage and boyfriend and all that sort of thing. All the emotional ups and downs of that. Suddenly, it's just physically, not even throwing you straight in there physically, not even emotionally talking about it. So it's quite a crazy thing God has then put on humanity. Continue now. You shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be the sign of the covenant between us. Every male among you in every... You might think, oh, it's being really strict to make us all strict, and that's the idea, that's the spirit behind it. But it's not said that. So it just shows how powerful the Bible is. And it shall be the sign of the covenant between us. Every male among you in every generation shall be circumcised on the 8th day, both those born in your house and any foreigner, not of your blood, but bought with your money. Circumcise both those born in your house and those bought with your money. Thus shall my covenant be marked in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. So he's forcing people, through maybe it's their strongest emotions, their sexual desire. It's the thing that they have most problems with emotionally. Anyway, everlasting covenant. Every uncircumcised male, everyone who has not had the flesh of this foreskin circumcised shall be cut off from the kin of his father. That's the family of his father. He has broken my covenant. So yeah, that changed after Jesus, and St. Paul basically said that, that is faith is about trust only. So it's of the spirit, of the heart, of the mind, of the decision making. It's a value that is greater than physics, greater than science. God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai your wife, you shall call her not Sarai but Sarah." What does it mean? That's princess. I will bless her and give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall be the mother of nations. The king of many people shall spring from her. So he's saying their ancestry will be great. Abraham threw himself down on his face. He laughed and said to himself, "Can a son be born to a man who is 100 years old? Can Sarah bear a son when she is 90? He's already calling her Sarah, so he really believes God is persuading him through love. That's the feelings I get reading it. But it's all the power of the Bible. How long it's been going, maybe from God himself, maybe through all the people that believe in it now or in the past, maybe all these things, or maybe just one of these things. But yeah, I would say all of these things, but in a particular hierarchy. I still put God at the top of my life. So he said to God, "If only Ishmael might live under thy special care." So he does care about Ishmael, see? Abraham does, yes. But God replied, "No, your wife Sarah shall bear you a son, and you shall call him Isaac." And it says here, that is, he laughed. I suppose because he's laughing with happiness, with joy, with glee, is Abraham. "With him I will fulfill my covenant, an everlasting covenant with his descendants after him." Maybe God is telling Abraham off. This circumcision is God again telling Abraham off for a second time that he shouldn't be sleeping with a mistress that Sarai told him to sleep with. One of his slave girls. That it's wrong. So it's an everlasting covenant to tell him off forever. So it's very interesting now, isn't it? The relationship of humanity and the Lord God. Now with Abraham specifically, it starts with for us. We obviously also look at the creation and God's relationship with all living things. But this Bible that we're following about humanity and the leadership of God and the leadership of humanity is starting with one man, with Abraham. So that's why people look up to Abraham, look up to God. But we're humans, so human form means Abraham. So there you go. And why God sent Jesus in the end. And that was the plan from the beginning. It says, with St. Paul was saying, St. Paul's the big academic, who tells us all what it was all about, in the letters at the end of the Bible. Let's finish this off now. "I will multiply his descendants. He shall be father of 12 princes, and I will raise a great nation from him. But my covenant I will fulfill with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this season next year." When he had finished talking with Abraham, God ascended and left him. Oh, so God was a person then. Whether it was Jesus or not, we don't know. Presume not. Presume it was a person. Maybe looking like an angel, but it was a person. "Then Abraham took Ishmael his son, everyone who had been born in his household, and everyone bought with money, every male in his household, and he circumcised them that very same day in the flesh of their foreskin, as God had told him to do." Now there's a powerful man to do that to adults. Crazy times, crazy people, crazy situation. Very crazy, isn't it? "Abraham was 99 years old when he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin. Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin." It's been very detailed, practical, crazy stuff. "Both Abraham and Ishmael were circumcised on the same day, and all the men of his household, born in the house or bought with money from foreigners, were circumcised with him." Crazy stuff. Let me just read a little bit more to take your mind off that. Although obviously it doesn't want you to. "The Lord appeared to Abraham by the terebinths of Mamre. As Abraham was sitting at the opening of his tent in the heat of the day, he looked up and saw 3 men standing in front of him." So this time it's 3. God is 3 men. "When he saw them, or maybe 3 angels, he ran from the opening of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. 'Sirs,' he said, 'if I have deserved your favor, do not pass by my humble self without a visit. Let me send for some water so that you may wash your feet and rest under a tree.'" So Abraham doesn't realize it's God. He thinks it's just 3 strangers. "And let me fetch a little food so that you may refresh yourselves." So he said, "Let me send for some water that you may wash your feet and rest under a tree, and let me fetch a little food so that you may refresh yourselves. Afterwards you may continue the journey which has brought you my way." I'll leave it there in suspense for what they say next. So thanks be to God for the truth we now know, which is at the end of the Bible, after all these things have happened, that we really know a lot better than what Abraham did. But we need to respect Abraham and what we've learned from him up to this time. Thank you. See you tomorrow.